Welcome to the Way to Go podcast. Bill McMinn, Jeri, my dear wife. And we're going to talk about a couple things today. One being postmodernism, which I have very, very vague, foggy idea. And actually, it's a foggy thing. It's kind of like actually hard to have.
It changes daily.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard thing to have a strong grip on because it always seems to be in flux because there are no absolutes. So when there are no absolutes, it's kind of hard to define something absolutely that doesn't really believe in absolute truth anyway. But one of the books that I've been enjoying reading lately is Alive and Awake to the Truth by John Cooper, lead singer of Skillet. So he had some really, really great things to say. And he was talking about postmodernism, and he gave a short definition. And, of course, I'm trying to wrap my brains around it. That's why I figured I'd talk about it today, just because I have some different quotes and whatnot. Talk it through. Yeah, if I talk it through to you, maybe I'll understand it better. But it's gonna resonate. Trust me. Some of these things. But so he was talking about that, and he was talking about Marxism and how that some of the threads of that are actually in our society today, because it's all about the oppressed, that minority group that doesn't have a voice needs to rise to the top and overthrow what's in power.
Right.
So what would be considered, what you're going to overthrow today would be white, male, Christian, cisgender. They're the ones with a voice. They're the ones we have to overthrow. So that's why sometimes if you feel like you have no voice in this world and nobody really cares about what you think, this is one of the reasons and kind of some of the thinking behind it, because they don't want to hear what you have to say because you already have power. So you need to be, your volume needs to be dropped to nothing. You need to be muted, basically. And these other people need to be amplified in what they're saying. So today we live in a world where anything that would be considered a minority, transgender, certainly LGBTQ, you look at anything to do with race, any kind of minority, female, that all needs to come to the top, and we need to just obliterate everything else. And so now he said, that's where you're getting into these no values. So he said, then you're going to have people and they'll be talking about Jesus. And so you'll be talking about absolutes, and they don't want to hear it. So it's because like a religious thing. So you'll be talking about morals and things, and they'll say, well, that doesn't sound like the Jesus I know.
Yeah. Right.
Because they've detached the Jesus they know from the Jesus of the Bible, and they've refigured him to be them. And like I said on Sunday, bad theology leads to bad behavior, and all bad theology is to justify bad behavior. And I think even this kind of thinking is just justifying being able to do what you want. At the end of the day, all this boils down to, I want to do what I want to do.
Yeah, I mean, everyone decides what their own truth is.
Right.
You know, and it's not based on anything concrete or any absolute value. It's just based on how they feel at the moment.
Right.
And, you know, feelings change, but truth should never change.
Right. Because feelings are the caboose on, facts are the engine.
Right. That drive you.
And, you know, your faith is based in the facts, and then your feelings are the caboose of the train. The engine of the train is what the truth is. We live in a world today where they don't really value that. And I like what John Cooper said. He said, he goes, I would agree with these people who say, that doesn't sound like the Jesus I know, or that's not the Jesus I know. He said, yeah, you're right. The Jesus you know is not the Jesus of the Bible.
That's the truth.
Because he said, you've got churches, denominations that are teaching things that are counter to what truth is.
Yes.
So recently I just heard there was somebody in this area, and they were talking about, they actually put this post on Facebook, that Jesus Christ is nothing like what we are today as Christians, that he was liberal, that he was anti-conservative, that he was there to overthrow the establishment. Now, what did John Cooper in his book just say at Alive and Awake to the Truth?
That's not Jesus of the Bible.
That we are looking, the underoppressed, the whatever, minority is going to rise to the top and obliterates basically the majority voice and overthrows that power, right? So Jesus Christ is here to overthrow the power. He was there to overthrow the religious establishment. He was there, so he's nothing like it. So we've become now the religious establishment in that guy's mind that Jesus would overthrow. And again, it's a complete recreation of Jesus Christ.
No, because Jesus even came and said, you know, submit to the authorities of government, even though the government was oppressive.
Right.
You know, so obviously, I mean, he was not a rebel. He was coming to speak truth.
He said, give to Caesar what Caesar's, give to God what's God.
Right, exactly.
When they tried to argue about paying the temple tax and that they shouldn't pay it, he didn't really talk much about politics at all.
No.
But again, it's this thinking of the minority is rising up. And he goes, and then this is where your identity politics come in, because then every group that's considered the minority that now needs to be given the prime voice. And sometimes I've often wondered about that. I'm like, okay, well, if you have transgender, let's just talk common sense here for a second. If you were full on board with it and say, okay, I believe 100% that these people claim to be transgender, you're looking at a percentage of the population that is minuscule, super small, and they have such a major voice. And then here we are, if you're a parent in a school district and you're going to come and say, hey, I don't think that boy should be in the girls' locker room just because they say they're a girl, you're going to be the problem.
Right.
Because your voice needs to be silenced. You don't have really a say.
Right. And there's no common sense and there's no being able to say anything without getting attacked.
Right.
You know, I mean, even I read an article today just about, college dorms and how now, your daughter could go to college and her roommate could possibly be a male that identifies as a female and you have no say in the matter. You know what I mean? Right. And that's normal now. And you can't better not say anything. And it's like, where is the truth of reality?
Right. Because the truth is they don't believe in a reality.
Right.
That's the fact. In postmodernism, they're against establishment, authority, rules, things that would govern and make sense of your life. To me, it would be like if you're playing on a football field, the thing that makes football fun is rules. There's inbounds, there's out of bounds. The guy caught the football in the touchdown. It's not a matter of, do I feel like he was in bounds? They have cameras all over the place. The guy's foot was in the green or his feet were on the white.
Right.
That's it. I mean, there are certain rules. You can't, there's rules against clipping and chop blocks, and, you can't, some things you can't do to the quarterback to protect him because he's very defenseless when he's throwing the ball. So, I mean, they have all kinds of rules.
Right.
That make the game make sense. But can you imagine playing a football game where there's no end zone? There's no real way to know if you scored a touchdown. There's no yards at all to mark it. It would be, you couldn't even make sense of it. Right.
Like, what would be the point?
This is how people want to live today. And I remember Ravi Zacharias, and I know his name's been tarnished at this point, but he had a great point. He was in a building, I think it was at Ohio State University, and the whole building was like stairs to nowhere, doors to nowhere, and all these things to demonstrate. And the whole building was about demonstrating that there are no rules and things like that. He said, well, is that the way you put the foundation in? Basically. And that's a paraphrase of what he said. He said, but you did follow rules when you put this foundation in for this building.
Yeah. Or the building would collapse.
So as stupid as you're trying to make it and act like there are no real rules, it's not possible. There is a summer solstice and winter solstice. It's not whether you want it to be or not. It just exists. There is gravity. It just exists. There are seasons. It just exists. Daytime's coming when daytime's coming, and nighttime's coming when nighttime's coming. Sure. You can make it up and say whatever you want, but it just is what it is. And that's where I look at the Bible as statements of reality. It's the 10 Commandments are, they're laws, but they're also statements of reality, life as it is. I shouldn't be stealing. I shouldn't be lying. I shouldn't be cheating. I shouldn't be envying. I shouldn't be dishonoring my parents, right? These are all things that I shouldn't be doing. And so that's reality. This system of thought does not acknowledge any of that.
No, and I think it shows where a nation and people go when we get off of the truth of God's word.
Right.
That it just becomes so wishy-washy that anything goes, and every day it could just be something new. Oh, somebody has this other idea. Oh, okay. Well, now that's the truth.
To be honest with you, I don't think it's going to be new every day. And here's why. Because I think at the end of the day, people just want to justify indulging the flesh.
Yes.
It's just indulging impulse. You want to be, you're a married guy, you see some other hottie you want to be with. What's the way to justify that? Well, you can't justify it. You don't pull out the 10 Commandments when you're trying to justify that behavior.
Right.
You're trying to obliterate the 10 Commandments when you're justifying that kind of behavior. You're trying to ignore all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't want any kind of absolute rules. And so when you're looking at, it could be, same-sex attraction or whatever it is, and all these things that we've indulged. Like, we're indulging even the fantasy that if you're born with girl parts, you're not a girl.
Right.
Or if you're born with boy parts, you're not a boy. This is a mental health issue. Like we should be helping people. We should be encouraging this. We should be helping it. But in our society, because of the way that our thinking has become, the worst thing you can do to somebody is tell them no. And not encourage them to indulge whatever fantasy world that they want to, or fantasy reality that they want to construct. Now, one of the problems is, like, for a lot of well-meaning people, and I remember talking to one young lady, and she was thinking about going, way she shouldn't have been going. I told her, I want you to look around. I want you to look around. You go to a ball game. I don't care what this world tells you. I want you to go to a ball game. I want you to look around. And what you're going to see, you're going to see guy, girl, guy, girl, guy, girl. Go to the beach. You're going to see guy, girl, guy, girl, guy, girl. And here's why you're going to see it, because that's the way it is.
Right.
I said, and no matter how much they're trying to make it seem like it's not that way. Now, we're kind of coached in America, well, you don't say anything about it. If you disagree with it, you keep your mouth shut. You don't say anything about it. But it doesn't mean that people really in their hearts agree with it or think that's the way we should be going. So you can't skirt it forever. You can say there are no absolutes, but a lot of times people say it absolutely.
Right.
It's an absolute saying there's no absolutes. I mean, you just can't escape structure. You can't escape planning. You can't escape it. And I think some people do. Like, they want to escape the true reality because maybe reality is a little bit harsher than what reality is. Oh, wow, I got to work on my marriage. Reality is I got to be nice to people. Reality is I got to be an honest person. I need to work hard. That's reality.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, like you said, people just want to do what they want to do. And they want to make excuses for their behavior. And not only that, they want to attack anyone that thinks otherwise.
Right.
So basically, if you don't agree with them, you're not allowed to not agree. Then you're evil, you're wrong, you're going to be attacked.
Right.
And, everyone just seems to be jumping on that bandwagon right now, that if you dare to say anything that you disagree, it's like, unconscionable. You shouldn't do that.
And we're living in a world of the cliche. We're living in the world of pithy sayings, of just, I see it all the time. People pulling out quotes from all over the place, whether it's Hinduism or whatever ancient poet that they think is smart and more brilliant than the Bible. And they're just going to quote it. And again, all things quoted, all things done are done to fuel the sin nature.
Yep.
The bottom of the line is we have a sin nature and we just want what we want. And a lot of times we want stuff that's destructive for us. Addiction, you might want drugs, but I'm going to tell you what, it's wicked destructive.
Right.
You can say pot smoking is not that bad. It kills your ambition. You want to be reading comic books sitting in your mom's basement until you're 50 years old. Then I would highly suggest it. You want to have great talent and not use your talent. That's a good way to go. You just chill out every night. And not because it does. That's a fact. Like it's not making it up. I feel like it kills ambition. No, it does kill your ambition. Period.
Right.
So I look at these kind of things.
How dare you say something absolutely?
Yeah, I know. I know. Science is they only use science when it's convenient to use science. That is the honest to goodness truth. I mean, how many times have we seen that? Follow the science, and then you point out the science over here, like when it comes to an issue like abortion. That's a living human. What? Yeah. All of a sudden, I don't want to hear science
only
now when it comes to,
if
it's come pro-life versus abortion, I want to hear science now or anything else. I just find like people want to believe what they want to believe. But again, there's an indulgence of, I want to do what I want to do. No one's going to tell me how to live. To me, that's bedrock American thinking there. I'm an individual. You're not going to tell me I can do what I want, when I want, with who I want. I mean, mamas and papas were singing that.
Yep.
Back in the 60s, they were singing that. There's this free...
Be what you want to do. Be what you
want to be. Right. I can do whatever I want to do. Whatever makes me happy, from Sheryl Crow to you name it. I mean, the thinking has been out there. I've heard it for years.
Yeah.
You just got to do what makes you happy, honey. I'm like, okay, well, sometimes what brings you short-term happiness is going to bring you long-term pain.
Right.
And that's what you got to remember. So anyway, they were saying in some of the articles they said that basically the postmodern came into existence in the 60s, early 70s. They debate it like when it really happened, but it was against anything that would be structure, system, organization, maybe not organization from an administrative per se, but like religion, government, things like that's all suspect.
thinking.
That's all suspect. I think we should be suspect of the government. Maybe I'm a postmodernist, from that perspective, but but yeah, I mean, it's just pluralism, multiculturalism, quantum physics, all these things they said are playing into a part of it. In place of purpose, design, logic, and meaning, it affirms and embraces uncertainty, anarchy, chaos, and chance. It considers any effort to impose order upon the world or human life as purely provisional and arbitrary. It asserts that truth can vary from person to person, group to group. So that's the kind of thinking. Well, it's your truth. And it was interesting. John Cooper brought that up. He said, you saw it in the Kavanaugh trials where the news media, it didn't really matter if the girl was telling the truth about the Supreme Court justice and ahead of him being approved or not.
Right.
All that mattered was it was her truth.
Yeah, you had to listen because it's what
it's her truth. Yeah. And he said, you hear it now. Well, that's his truth. That's her truth. We joke around all the time. I know my truth.
Right.
I know my truth. We joke, right? Because it came out of Couples Retreat. Vince Vaughn said it. And that is a hilarious movie, actually. So we would listen to it and we'll say, like, if you don't agree with me or something,
I know my truth.
I know my truth. You say it to me all the time. All the time you say it. You're a postmodernist.
Yeah.
Because you say it to me all the time.
I'm so liberal.
You are. You say it to me all the time.
I do.
Well, do I think that we could be somehow influenced by postmodern thinking? Absolutely.
Oh, sure, because it infiltrates anything you watch, anything you see. News media, it's just craziness. I was thinking back to, remember we watched, I can't remember what it was called, but it was like a documentary kind of going from World War II to the Korean War to the Vietnam War, and they like interviewed different things. And I just remember one specific thing, that there was this girls' school at the beginning of the Vietnam War in the U.S., and it was all girls. They went, dressed in dresses. They went to school. And 4 years later, by the time this one girl graduated, it now had become co-ed. Everyone was like dressed almost like hippies. And they were like smoking weed and all this crazy stuff just in a short period of time. And I thought, no wonder it was such a shock for some of the guys who left for Vietnam and then came back. It was like you were coming back to a different country.
Right.
It was really, I had never seen it like how quickly it shifted until we watched
Ken
that.
Burns documentary on Vietnam. Because, Jeri, let's face it, we don't watch many documentaries.
No, but
it's Chernobyl and Vietnam. I mean, there's
I just can't remember what anything's called. But
so
do you remember that specifically?
Which documentary was it of the two?
One of the two.
One of those two, exactly.
But you remember that?
Right.
How it was just such a drastic change in such a short period of time in our country.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. I mean, I never looked at it from that perspective.
Watching it ever since back in the hippies days. I mean, it was definitely free love. But it didn't sustain. Like, I remember the movement. I mean, they didn't sustain. Like, they had it. I lived in a day where I'd be walking down the road. Of course, I'm this clean. God, my hair was a little bit longer, but I mean, I was this, church kid, walking around, and I'm seeing a van full of hippies drive by. Like, this was a normal thing. I mean, guys with their hair halfway down their back. Like, this was just part of the 70s. But
I think a lot of that ideology that came in during that time has taken a lot of root in this country and has been super destructive.
Right. Relativism is a huge part of it. Mm-hmm. It's not okay. Like, I've heard my daughter say it. Our daughter say it. It's my truth. You know what I'm saying? Well, I don't agree with it, but it's okay for them.
Right.
And I would challenge her, no, it's not okay for anybody.
Exactly.
It's not okay for anybody to do the wrong thing. So we can't, but in relativism, that's what it teaches. Even she was picking up it in the school. Well,
in high school,
I wouldn't do it, but that's okay for them. No, they're free to do something that's not okay, but we're not going to say it's okay.
Right. Yeah.
We're not going to say it's okay for them. It's not okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, I had to check that kind of thinking. And really, today, there's an actual pick and mix approach whenever you come to any of these kind of problems. There's an ambiguous uncertainty, no authority, no absolutes. Believe whatever you want. People struggle to know what is really real. And so as we are in this melees, this swamp that we've created, this bouncy house America that we tried to think, and a bouncy house is fun to play in. Like, it is fun to go in a bouncy house and jump around. I would not want to live in a bounce house.
Right.
I would not want to live where things are bouncing all the heck all over the place. When I walk through the kitchen, the whole kitchen table's going up, the food's going all over the floor. It would be absolutely unsustainable. But that in our thinking is what we've tried to do. We've tried to create this bounce house where everyone's safe, everyone's having fun, but nothing's staying put.
Right.
There's no security in it. There's no happiness. Meanwhile, antidepressants are being handed out. I can't believe the number of young people that I talk to today, and you'll talk to them, and the list of medications that they're on
is scary.
In their 20s, that they're already taking just to deal with life is staggering, because having a bad day, drink a Coca-Cola. It wasn't like you would.
People
never.
can't cope.
Right.
They cannot cope with anything that's hard or anything that goes against how they feel.
Right.
And they're almost taught that, you're the most important thing in the world.
Right.
So if things aren't going your way, then that's everyone else's problem.
Just be you.
Yeah.
Just be you.
The best version of yourself.
Yeah.
How about the best version of yourself?
I hear that all the time. You're beautiful.
Right.
You're beautiful just how you are. And I think to myself, I'll be me if me's behaving today. You know what I'm saying? But if being me is not behaving, I shouldn't be being me. You know what I'm saying? Like being just who you are doesn't always account for. No, you might seriously need to make some changes.
Yeah,
you might seriously need to check your attitude.
If you're feeling badly about yourself because you're doing the wrong thing, then you need to do the right thing. Right. You should be feeling badly about yourself. But in this nation, if you feel badly, well, then we'll just medicate you or excuse your behavior so you feel better about what you're
Here's
doing.
the fact of the matter is, this approach to life doesn't work.
No,
it's not working in this country. It's not working. It doesn't work. I look at people and the things that they do. They come and talk to me. This is what we're doing. This is how we're handling our finances, how we're handling our marriage, this is how we're handling life. And you're listening to this like, guys, this does not work. Like this, seriously, like what you're doing is not working. Right. You can't do just whatever you want to do and think that it's going to work.
Right.
You've got to have, there are certain financial rules, that we should be following. There's certain things. Like, I don't mind it. I've lived the whole life of responsibility. Yep. Like, I don't mind responsibility. I don't mind rules. I understand it. I get it, because train's going to be best on the railroad tracks. Yep. But a train on a dirt road, that's not where the train belongs. We were built to be on the tracks. We're built to be living in accordance in the boundaries of God's rules, and that's the value of the Bible. But anyway, we got to close this one out. We appreciate you tuning in. Feel free to follow. Feel free to subscribe to the Eagleville Bible Church page where we put these podcasts, or Podbean. Follow us there. So anyway, anything you do, share it. We always super appreciate it. You guys all have a fantastic week.